The midnight wind blew through the broken windows of the old village. There, amid a silence that seemed trapped between centuries, a girl walked with hesitant steps. Her eyes carried secrets no one dared ask about, and her shoulders, though fragile, bore a weight no human should carry. Since birth, she had been marked by a forgotten pact, a pact that said every man who dared approach her heart would be touched by the shadow of disgrace. They called her a witch, as if the word were enough to justify all the tragedies around her. But in her dreams, she was no witch. She was just an ordinary girl, wishing to hold a hand, without fearing that fate would crush it afterward. At school, a simple glance from her was followed by whispers, a smile, and soon misfortune fell on someone. Over time, she learned to silence her own voice, to hide her face, to live like a ghost among the living. And yet behind that silence, there was a flame, the secret desire to be loved, even if only once, even if it cost the world. But on a rainy night, when thunder split the sky in two, someone saw her cry. A boy, different from all the others, did not step away. He did not believe in pacts or curses. He believed only in her eyes. Was it just coincidence, or the beginning of something that would defy centuries of darkness? The answer would come soon, but what would happen when the pact demanded its price? Night fell over the small village like a heavy cloak. Narrow streets, lit by old lampposts that flickered now and then, seemed to hide stories no one dared tell out loud. The smell of wet earth, mixed with the damp wood of old houses, created the feeling that time was stopped, stuck at some forgotten point in the past. At the top of a hill stood a solitary house, its always closed windows and abandoned garden made it the target of whispers and suspicious looks. Inside, a girl moved in silence, as if every step were a transgression. Her name was Hae-Rim. Since childhood, her destiny had been marked by something greater than she was, a pact her family had made generations ago. It wasn't a visible pact. There were no chains, marks, or paper contracts, but the signs were everywhere. Inexplicable accidents always happened around her. A boy at school who offered her flowers fell down the stairs the same day. The neighbor who used to greet her was found with a broken arm after talking to her in the street. At first, everyone said it was coincidence. But when coincidences become routine, they turn into a curse. "She's the witch of the pact," the children murmured. "Don't go near her, or something bad will happen," the mothers whispered. And so, Hae-Rim grew up in the shadow of rejection. Her dark eyes always stared at the ground, as if she were afraid to face the world and cause even more tragedies. That particular night, rain drummed on the roof, and the wind moaned through the cracks in the wood. Hae-Rim leafed through an old notebook found in her father's cabinet. The yellowed pages bore a trembling, almost illegible handwriting. At first, there were only ordinary family accounts, but in the middle of the notebook, a sentence stood out, written in red ink. "To save our lineage, the blood of a daughter will be given. Her heart will never belong to anyone, or ruin will fall upon all who come near." Hae-Rim's hands trembled. She already knew the rumors, but she had never seen the curse described so clearly. The notebook had belonged to her mother, who died the same day Hae-Rim was born. A first sacrifice, perhaps? Was that the root of everything? Outside, thunder echoed, and for an instant the candlelight wavered. Hae-Rim shut the notebook tight, as if she could hide the truth from herself, but it was too late. The words were already engraved in her mind like a sentence. The next morning, school felt even more hostile. The hallways were full of muffled laughter that always went quiet when she passed. Hae-Rim learned to ignore it, but deep in her ears, those words echoed like needles. Witch, jinxed, cursed. At lunch, while everyone talked in groups, she sat alone under a tree in the courtyard. The sun beat down, and the heat made the air shimmer. She opened her simple lunchbox, but had no appetite. She only stirred the rice grains, pretending to be busy. Then she felt a look. From afar, a boy watched her. He didn't look away, didn't laugh at her, didn't whisper to his friends. He just stared, with an expression that mixed curiosity and something else, something she couldn't name. His name was Jun-Ho. Unlike the others, he didn't let rumors guide him. Since he was little, he had heard about Hae-Rim, but instead of fear, it stirred fascination. There was something unjust about the whole story. Something inside him said that girl wasn't guilty. Days later, a scene changed everything. Rain poured down when Hae-Rim waited alone by the school exit. Her classmates had already left in groups, sheltered by colorful umbrellas. Without one, she simply watched the wet ground, as if she hoped time would swallow her. Jun-Ho, holding his black umbrella, approached. "Do you want me to walk you home?" he asked, voice calm. Hae-Rim froze. Her heart raced in her chest. No one had offered her anything like that since the rumors began. She opened her mouth to refuse, but no word came out. "You shouldn't," she murmured, barely audible. Jun-Ho gave a slight smile. "It's only dangerous if you believe it is." Before she could react, a bus sped past, throwing a jet of dirty water that almost hit them. Hae-Rim stepped back, body trembling. She remembered every time someone had come near her, and fate had collected a price. She wanted to run, but couldn't. She just stared at the boy who seemed to challenge her with his very presence. "Aren't you afraid?" she asked at last. "Of you?" Jun-Ho gave a soft laugh. "No. I think the bigger fear is never knowing who you really are." A shiver ran down Hae-Rim's spine. No one had ever spoken to her like that. For a moment, she wanted to believe it was possible, that maybe he was right. But when she raised her eyes to the sky, she saw something that paralyzed her, lightning crossing the dark clouds. The crash was so loud she flinched instinctively. And then, like an omen, she heard inside herself the same voice she had read in her mother's notebook. "Love will be your ruin." Thunder boomed again, louder. Hae-Rim's heart pounded. She thought, if he stays close to me, something will happen. And before she could warn him, Jun-Ho took a step closer. "Hae-Rim," he said her name for the first time. At that exact moment, a flash cut the sky. The tree beside them was struck by lightning, splintering branches that crashed to the ground. Inches away, the rain broke loose in fury, soaking them in seconds. Jun-Ho pulled Hae-Rim by the arm, shielding her instinctively, but his eyes stayed fixed on her, not on the lightning, not on the danger, on her. And Hae-Rim, in shock, felt something break inside. The pact wasn't just a legend. It was real. With her heart hammering, she wondered, would he survive, or end up like all the others? The burning tree behind them lit Jun-Ho's face. He smiled amid the chaos. He didn't seem scared. On the contrary, he looked determined. But how long would fate spare him? The rain only grew heavier. Every drop seemed to pierce the ground like glass needles. The wind roared, scattering soaked leaves across the empty school courtyard. Hae-Rim panted for breath, trembling not just from cold, but from fear. The tree trunk still smoldered, the smell of charred wood mixed with wet earth. Jun-Ho, drenched from head to toe, still held her by the arm. There was no panic in his eyes, only resolve, as if he stood before a secret he had always known he would have to face. "See?" he said, voice steady despite the storm. "Nothing happened to me." Hae-Rim's eyes widened. "Nothing happened?" she cried, voice breaking. "The tree almost fell on you. If you'd taken one more step, but it didn't." He smiled, small, almost defiant. "That only proves it isn't you." She fell silent, heart racing. She wanted to believe him, but the memory of all the tragedies still throbbed inside her. Injured boys, inexplicable accidents, looks of hate and fear. It couldn't all have been coincidence. Jun-Ho held the umbrella over her, even as the wind turned it inside out. "Let me walk you home." Hae-Rim hesitated. Every part of her screamed to run, not to risk his life. But for some reason she didn't understand. She couldn't move. They walked together down the narrow street in silence. Only footsteps in pooled water and distant thunder filled the air. At every corner, Hae-Rim expected the worst. A runaway car, a falling pole, anything. But nothing happened. When they reached the old house on the hill, she turned quickly. "Thank you, but don't come back." Her voice sounded more like a desperate plea than an order. Jun-Ho only tilted his head, his gaze charged with something Hae-Rim couldn't decipher. "You still don't understand. I don't believe in this pact." She ran inside and slammed the door, heart pounding in her ears. She leaned against the cold wood and slid to the floor, hugging her knees. Outside, the sound of rain gave way to another, the echo of her own thoughts. He has no idea. He doesn't know what he's risking. That night, sleep didn't come. Hae-Rim tossed in bed as the words from her mother's notebook echoed. "Her heart will never belong to anyone, or ruin will fall upon all who come near." At 3 a.m., she heard a sound outside, a metallic click, then footsteps. She hurried to the window and gently pulled back the curtain. There he was, Jun-Ho, sitting on the bench in front of her gate, alone in the middle of the night. A closed umbrella rested beside him, but the rain had already stopped. He just looked at the dark sky, as if waiting for the sun to rise right there. Why was he there? Why risk so much for her? In the days that followed, Hae-Rim tried to avoid him. She arrived early to miss him, left late to avoid the walk back. Yet somehow, Jun-Ho always appeared. Not intrusively, constantly. A look in the hall, a distant wave in the courtyard, a silent presence that said more than words. Classmates noticed. "Is he crazy?" they murmured. "Doesn't he know she's cursed?" they whispered. The voices wounded Hae-Rim, but Jun-Ho seemed not to hear. Or rather, he heard, and didn't care. One day in literature class, the teacher asked everyone to write an essay on what destiny means. Hae-Rim sat still, staring at the blank page. No words came. Jun-Ho, 2 rows back, leaned slightly and whispered so only she could hear. "Maybe destiny is what we choose to believe." She turned, surprised, eyes wide. He smiled, almost imperceptibly, and went back to writing. In that instant, something warmed in her chest. A thread of hope? Or just the dangerous illusion that there might be a way out? After school, he followed her to the bus station. "You don't have to," Hae-Rim said, almost pleading. "I don't want you hurt because of me." Jun-Ho looked at her, serious. "What if I told you I'm already hurt?" She frowned. "What?" "Not by you," he breathed, "but by the injustice of how they treat you." "That hurts." The words slipped past her defenses like gentle blades. Before she could reply, a sound sliced the air. An electric snap. They turned. Across the street, a high-voltage wire swayed, spitting blue sparks. The metal structure holding it groaned as if about to give way. Jun-Ho instinctively stepped forward, arm out to shield Hae-Rim. "Careful!" The wire snapped and crashed onto the asphalt. A flash lit their faces, and the current raced along the ground a few yards away. People screamed and ran. Hae-Rim froze, heart hammering. It was exactly how it always happened. The curse, the pact. But Jun-Ho didn't back away. He gripped her hand and pulled her farther, out of danger. When the noise died down, both were breathless and still holding hands. His gaze met hers, steady, unshaken. "See?" he said between heavy breaths. "I'm still here." His touch burned on her skin. The pact would not allow this. It wouldn't let someone stay. And yet there he was, defying centuries of darkness with a simple gesture. Deep in her chest, a question echoed. How long until destiny collected the price? As Jun-Ho stared at her intently, far off, a hooded figure watched them from a dark corner. Its lips murmured softly, "The pact has been broken, and the price will be high." The next night brought a strange silence to the house on the hill. The wind, which usually moaned through the cracks in the wood, was contained. Shadows seemed denser, as if the very air were waiting for something. Hae-Rim couldn't sleep. Since the electrical wire, her thoughts had spun in a whirl. Jun-Ho was still alive, but for how long? She got up, lit the small candle on the desk, and opened her mother's notebook again. The time-worn pages spoke of pains, births, deaths. In every generation, always a daughter, and always a loss. But among the notes, Hae-Rim found something she hadn't noticed before. An envelope glued to the back cover, sealed with red wax. Her hands shook as she broke the seal. Inside was a letter. The handwriting was firm, different from the diary's wavering script. "To the daughter who will bear my burden, know that the pact was not born of hatred, but of despair. Our blood was given to a spirit of midnight in exchange for survival. The price? Never to love, for love is the coin that feeds the curse. If you dare defy it, be prepared to lose what you desire most." Hae-Rim let the paper fall to the table. The spirit of midnight, survival in exchange for imprisoning love. That was what had destroyed her life before it began. A chill ran along her spine. She wasn't only cursed, she was heir to an ancient pact, sealed with blood. The next day, school looked the same as ever. Muffled laughter, whispers in the hall, looks that cut through her like arrows. But Hae-Rim felt something different, as if each step were followed. Every shadow seemed to watch her. At break, she hid in the library, a quiet refuge few visited. The smell of old books and dust calmed her. As she ran her fingers along a shelf, she touched the spine of an old book of regional legends, Tales of Midnight. She pulled the heavy volume and opened to the first pages. There it was, the story of a village that, in times of famine, offered a daughter to the spirit of midnight in exchange for abundant harvests. The daughter must live without love, or the entire village would suffer. The words echoed in Hae-Rim's mind. Live without love, or all perish. A sound behind her made her start. Do you like old stories too? It was Jun-Ho. He held 2 books, his gaze gentle. Hae-Rim quickly shut the tome and hugged it to her chest. Did you follow me? She asked, colder than she meant to. He shrugged. Maybe. His smile seemed to pierce her defenses, but only because I want to understand. She looked away. There's nothing to understand. Jun-Ho stepped closer. There is. Since I was a kid, I've heard about you. And I always thought, what if everyone's wrong? What if she's just a girl trapped in something she didn't choose? Hae-Rim's eyes stung, but she didn't let tears fall. You don't know anything. If you keep staying near me, you'll regret it. He fell silent for a moment, as if weighing it, then set the books on the table. One slid open, revealing pages full of scribbled notes. What's that? She asked. Jun-Ho drew a breath. I've been researching. Accidents, dates, places. There's a pattern. Her eyes widened. Pattern? Yes. He pointed to the records. All the incidents happen around you, but always when someone tries to get close the wrong way. It's not random. It's almost like there are rules. Hae-Rim's heart sped up. He was closing in on the truth the letter revealed. Before she could answer, a sound cracked through the library. A dry snap, wood breaking. They turned. In the corridor, a dark shadow moved, too fast to be human. Jun-Ho stepped forward instinctively, shielding Hae-Rim behind him. Who's there? His voice rang firm. Silence was the only reply. But Hae-Rim felt a coldness cut through her skin. It wasn't someone. It was something. That night, returning home, Hae-Rim found the door ajar. Her heart lurched. Her father was away on a work trip. The house should have been empty. She stepped in slowly, each floorboard groaning underfoot. On the living room table lay something that hadn't been there before, an old, yellowed photograph. It showed a young woman with sad eyes wearing a black hanbok. On the back, a handwritten line. She was the first. You will be the last. Hae-Rim dropped the photo. Her whole body shook. Who had put it in her house? Who knew about the pact? Behind her, a door slammed hard. The wind wasn't strong enough for that. The candle's flame went out, plunging the room into darkness. Then a soft voice, almost a whisper, brushed her ear. Your heart will be the ruin of whoever dares touch it. She screamed and backed against the wall, chest heaving. But no one was there. Only shadow, only silence. Meanwhile, Jun-Ho was alone in his room. Papers spread across the floor. City maps, newspaper clippings, old reports. Lines connected incidents to places. They formed a circle around a central point, Hae-Rim's house. He breathed deep, staring at the center. It's not coincidence, but it isn't her fault either, he murmured. His gaze fell on a note he'd written. Origin, ancestral pact. At that moment, his phone buzzed. An anonymous message lit the screen. Stop investigating, or you'll be next. Jun-Ho frowned, but didn't hesitate. If that's the price, then let it fall on me. He turned out the light, but lay on alert. He felt that at sunrise the pact would begin revealing its darkest secrets. In the pre-dawn gloom, a hooded figure marked Hae-Rim's door with red. The symbol glowed for an instant, like liquid fire, then vanished. Morning came gray, a thick fog veiling the village like a curtain of secrets. Hae-Rim looked out the window, eyes fixed on the invisible symbol she knew was burned into her door. Even if it no longer glowed, she felt it like a scar. At school, whispers were louder. News of the lightning strike had spread. That was too close, wasn't it? They said. He only survived by luck. Next time he won't. Hae-Rim lowered her head, every word cutting like a knife. She wanted to scream, to say it wasn't her fault, but her mind betrayed her. The pact wasn't rumor. It was real. Jun-Ho, however, seemed unfazed. At break, he approached as if nothing were wrong, bringing a can of strawberry milk. I thought you might like this. Hae-Rim stared, surprised. Why do you do this? She murmured. Don't you understand? The closer you are to me, the more danger you're in. He smiled slightly. I've thought about that, so I decided to test it. She frowned. Test? Jun-Ho pulled a notebook full of notes from his pocket. Lines, times, names. Since I started talking to you, I noticed certain things only happen at specific moments. He opened it before her. Look, accidents occur when someone stays by your side for more than 10 minutes, or when they confess. Hae-Rim's eyes widened. Her blood ran cold. He was getting too close to the truth. Stop. Don't keep doing this. But Jun-Ho didn't back down. If there's a curse, it follows rules, and anything that follows rules can be broken. She wanted to believe. but part of her feared each word of his was just another stone on the path to his own destruction. That night, Jun-Ho decided to put his theory into practice. He waited until Hae-Rim went out to feed the stray cats, a habit she kept secret, perhaps because it was the only time she felt free. He followed her quietly, keeping his distance, timer on his phone, measured steps. Hae-Rim stopped in a narrow alley and took a small bag of food from her sack. The cats ran up, meowing with hunger, and her face lit in a way Jun-Ho had never seen. It was as if the curse vanished there, surrounded by small beings that feared nothing. Jun-Ho drew a deep breath and approached without announcing himself. He started the timer. 1 minute, 2, 3. Nothing happened. His heart sped, not from fear, but from being near her. Hae-Rim finally noticed and turned, startled. "What are you doing here?" "Testing." He held up the phone, showing the timer. "It's already been 3 minutes." "You're insane!" She dropped the bag, hands shaking. "Go away before—" A crash cut her off. A flower pot fell from a nearby balcony, shattering inches from him. The sound echoed down the alley. The cats scattered. Jun-Ho breathed hard, chest heaving, but kept his eyes on her. "I'm still alive." Hae-Rim fell to her knees, tears spilling unchecked. "You don't understand. They always survived at first, but later it's always worse." He crouched before her, voice low and firm. "Then I'll be the exception." The next day, Jun-Ho visited the village antique shop, heavy with incense and dust, where time seemed to have stopped. Behind the counter, an old man with piercing eyes watched him in silence. "I'm looking for information about old pacts," Jun-Ho said, cautious. The man arched an eyebrow. "And why would a boy like you be interested in that?" Jun-Ho hesitated, then spoke. "Because someone I want to protect is trapped in one." The old man gave a rough laugh. "Midnight Pact. I've heard that name. Many think it's only a legend, but every myth is born of a truth." He leaned forward. "The spirit doesn't care who is guilty or innocent. It only fulfills the bargain. As long as there is love, there will be misfortune." A chill ran through Jun-Ho. "So there's no way to break it?" "There are only 2 ways to break a pact." The old eyes glinted. "Either someone pays an even greater price, or it's proven that love endures everything." Jun-Ho clenched his fists. He didn't believe in sacrifices, but he believed in endurance. That afternoon at school, Hae-Rim found her locker covered in cruel notes. Witch, killer, bad luck. She tore them down in silence, her hand shaking. When she turned, Jun-Ho was there. "Ignore them." She shook her head. "I can't. It's like I shouldn't exist." Jun-Ho breathed deep. "Then let me be your proof that you do." She looked at him, tears trapped in her eyes. Before she could answer, an alarm blared in the corridor. A boy slipped on the stairs and fell badly, crying in pain. Everyone turned, and as always, eyes fell on Hae-Rim. "It was her," someone murmured. Jun-Ho stepped in front of her, voice loud and firm. "It wasn't," but the chorus of suspicion already echoed. Hae-Rim felt her world collapse. The pact was always there, reminding her that no matter how she hid, the shadow would find her. That night, alone in her room, she opened her mother's letter again. The words pulsed with a life of their own. "Be prepared to lose what you desire most." Tears blurred the ink, but the message was clear. If she kept letting Jun-Ho come close, sooner or later, she would lose him. And yet when she closed her eyes, all she could see was his smile in the storm. Meanwhile, Jun-Ho reviewed his notes, connecting dates, times, places. A pattern grew clearer. Less than 10 minutes. Nothing fatal. More than 10 minutes. Serious accidents. Declaration of feelings. Risk of death. He scribbled. First law. Time at her side determines the danger. Second law. Words of love awaken the curse. Before he could continue, a rattle hit the window. He jumped up. A stone had been thrown. Tied to it, a note. With tense hands, he opened it. "You're challenging forces you don't understand. Give up, before nothing is left." Jun-Ho stared into the dark outside, seeing no one, only the night's shadow. He drew a steady breath. "No," he murmured. "I won't give up on her." At the same time, at Hae-Rim's house, the red symbol reappeared on the door, this time burning with invisible flames. She stared at it in silence as a voice echoed in her mind. "The price has already begun to be collected." The patter of fine rain beat the old house's roof like a constant drum. Hae-Rim sat on the bedroom floor, her mother's notebook open before her, but her eyes fixed on nothing. The red symbol had scorched her door the night before. Though faded, she still felt its heat on her skin as if she'd touched it. Outside, a slow knocking echoed, 3 spaced taps. Not the wind, not a neighbor. A shiver ran along her spine. She opened the door cautiously. An old man, cloaked in dark fabric, stood on the threshold. His eyes were deep, almost glowing in the dimness. "You are the daughter of the pact," he said, voice grave, as if there were no doubt. Hae-Rim stepped back, startled. "Who are you?" He tilted his head, as if seeing a child for the first time. "Just someone who's lived too long seeing this burden pass from generation to generation." He entered without asking. The house seemed to shrink around him. He sat at the table as if he already knew the place. "The pact wasn't forgotten, girl." His wrinkled hands rested on the notebook. "It was sealed out of despair, an entire lineage condemned so the rest of the village could prosper." Hae-Rim's eyes burned, but she forced her voice. "Then tell me, how do you break it?" He looked at her for a long time, until a bitter smile appeared. "There are only 2 options. Either someone pays with their own blood, or you find a love strong enough to defy midnight." Hae-Rim shuddered. "But everyone who loved me has died, because it wasn't true love." The old man leaned forward. "The spirit doesn't fear passing passion or shallow desire. It fears only what is eternal." The words echoed like an impossible sentence. Eternal love? How could she expect that if no one survived long enough to prove it? The next morning, Hae-Rim tried to avoid Jun-Ho, but he found her on the way to school. Sun broke through clouds, casting gold over the wet street. He smiled when he saw her, but her look was dark. "You have to stop," she said firmly. "I know the truth now. There are only 2 choices. Your life, or something that will never exist." Jun-Ho frowned. "Who told you that?" "An old man. He knows about the pact." Jun-Ho drew a deep breath, gaze intense. "Then let's choose the 3rd option." She shook her head. "There is no 3rd option." "There is." He stepped closer. Her heart raced. "Make our own destiny." For a moment she believed. But then, as if the spirit were always lurking, a car skidded wildly at the nearby curve. The scream of tires tore the air. Everyone turned their heads. Jun-Ho reacted fast, grabbing her shoulders and pulling her back. The car almost hit them before crashing into a pole. Shattered glass reflected their shock. He held her tight, chest heaving. "See?" he murmured. "I'm still here." But Hae-Rim couldn't answer. The pact always collected, sooner or later, and she knew time was running out. That night, Jun-Ho went to her house. He knocked. No reply. As he turned to leave, the window opened. Hae-Rim appeared, eyes red from crying. "Why do you insist?" she asked, voice breaking. "Don't you understand you could die?" He looked straight at her. "Because I couldn't live knowing I never tried." Silence. Only the wind moving through the night. Hae-Rim closed her eyes. The old man's words told like a sentence. The spirit doesn't fear passing passion. It fears only what is eternal. And for the first time, she felt fear not of the pact, but of her own heart. Days later, the school organized a field trip. The sky was clear. The trees swayed gently. But Hae-Rim felt something bad looming. At lunch, she moved away from the group and sat by the lake. The water's reflection seemed darker than it should. Jun-Ho approached slowly and sat a few steps away. "May I?" he asked. She didn't answer, but didn't push him away. Their silence felt dense, heavy with everything they couldn't say. Suddenly, a gust toppled a tripod a classmate had left. The equipment rolled toward the lake. Jun-Ho ran to catch it, but the ground gave way under his feet. Hae-Rim screamed and ran. She caught his hand at the last second, before he plunged into the icy water. His eyes met hers, surprised, and something deeper. "See?" he said between breaths. "It's not the curse. It's just destiny testing us." She pulled him up with all her strength, and they fell together on the wet grass, laughing and crying at once. But deep down she knew. Every test was growing more dangerous. That night, back in the village, the old man returned to her door. "The spirit is impatient," his voice rumbled. "You're playing with something you don't understand." Hae-Rim faced him, fists clenched. "Then tell me how to stop it." He sighed, eyes glinting in the dark. "There is a ritual, a way to offer something in exchange." She leaned forward, urgent. "What?" He studied her a long moment, testing her courage. "The midnight ritual demands a choice. Either you give your life, or you give your heart forever." The words hit like stones. Hae-Rim felt the world tilt. Give her life, or live forever without loving. "But if I do nothing," she whispered. The old man rose slowly. "Then the spirit will collect the price from the one you most wish to protect." Silence filled the room. The candle blew itself out. Darkness swallowed them. Hae-Rim knew there was no time left. Outside, Jun-Ho watched unseen. He had heard every word. His eyes burned, not with fear, but with resolve. If there was a price to pay, he was ready. The storm fell on the village like heaven's punishment. Lightning scored the sky in silver lines. Thunder made Hae-Rim's windows shake. Wind pushed through cracks, carrying the metallic scent of rain and soaked earth. In her room, Hae-Rim knelt before the open notebook, hands pressed to the pages. The old man had left her with an impossible choice echoing in her mind: give her life, or seal her heart forever. But she knew that either way, she would lose Jun-Ho. Urgent knocking hit the door. Before she could move, Jun-Ho entered, soaked, eyes blazing with determination. "I heard everything," he said, voice firm, though his chest heaved. "You won't carry this alone." Hae-Rim stood, startled. "You don't understand. The ritual demands sacrifice. If you try to interfere..." He stepped closer, leaving a trail of water. "Then let it be me." She stared, shocked. "You've gone mad. I'd rather risk my life than live without you." His voice trembled, not with fear. "I won't let you choose death or a prison. If there's a price, I'll pay it." Tears ran down her face. "You don't know what you're saying." "I do." Jun-Ho cupped her face gently. "Since I first saw you, I can't accept a world where you hide from everyone. I want to see you smile without fear. I want to be the exception to the pact." For a moment, she wanted to believe, but thunder cracked overhead and dragged her back to reality. "If the ritual begins, there may be no turning back," she whispered. Jun-Ho nodded. "Then we'll begin together." Midnight arrived. The old man waited in a clearing in the woods. Trees bowed like silent guardians. Wet leaves carpeted the ground. At the center, a circle drawn in red powder seemed to glow in lightning's glare. "You came," the old man said without surprise. "Remember, the spirit does not forgive mistakes." Hae-Rim's breathing was ragged. Her heart pounded. Jun-Ho gripped her hand tightly. "What do we do?" he asked. The old man raised his hands, as if summoning the night itself. "To break the pact, a heart must be offered. The spirit will come, and someone must give what they hold most precious." The words hung like a sentence. Wind blew harder, snuffing torches. The circle flared, and a shadow rose from the ground. Tall, with shifting edges, eyes red as embers. Its voice echoed from all directions. "Who dares defy the pact of midnight?" Hae-Rim trembled, but Jun-Ho stepped forward. "I do." The shadow expanded, as if laughing. "Your love will be your ruin. Are you ready to pay the price?" "Yes," Jun-Ho answered without hesitation. The ground shook. The shadow approached, extending what seemed a smoke-made hand. Cold energy drained the warmth from the air. Hae-Rim screamed, trying to pull him back. "Don't do this!" Jun-Ho looked at her, eyes full of tenderness. "I'd rather lose everything than lose you." The shadow touched his chest and he dropped to his knees, gasping, each breath stolen by the wind. "Stop," Hae-Rim begged, falling beside him. "I accept. Take my life, take my heart, but not his." The shadow paused. The old man watched in silence, not interfering. "The spirit does not accept lies. The sacrifice must be true." Hae-Rim wept, clutching Jun-Ho's hand. "Then take me! If that's what you want, take me!" The shadow seemed to waver, its red eyes blazing brighter. "No!" Jun-Ho seized her arm with what strength he had left. "If anyone pays, it's me." They stared at each other. Tears mingled with rain. It was impossible to choose, and in that instant, the shadow rose higher, covering them like a mantle. Two hearts in dispute, only one will be taken. The circle burned like fire, the wind roared, and darkness swallowed them whole. When Hae-Rim opened her eyes, she lay in the clearing. The storm had ceased. The silence was so deep it hurt. She sat up, dizzy. Next to her, Jun-Ho lay unconscious, face pale, lips drained of color. "Jun-Ho," she cried, shaking him in desperation. No answer. Her heart shattered. The old man approached, gaze grave. "The spirit has chosen." "What does that mean?" she cried, voice full of pain. He sighed, weighing each word. "Your love was accepted as true, but the price has not yet finished being collected." Her heart froze. "Then, he will die?" The old man looked to the sky. "Or he will live." but only if you can face it to the end." The words echoed like a riddle without answer. Hae-Rim hugged Jun-Ho. Tears fell on his face while his body remained cold, inert. For the first time she understood. The pact didn't just want a heart. It wanted to break them from within. As she held him, Jun-Ho's eyes opened for an instant, but they were no longer the same. A red flame glowed in his pupils, and a strange voice spoke from his lips. "Now, I belong to midnight." The clearing lay under a heavy silence, broken only by Jun-Ho's uneven breaths. In Hae-Rim's arms, he was present and far, his soul split between two worlds. When his eyes opened, shock seized her. Those ember-red pupils didn't belong to the boy she knew. It was the spirit of midnight speaking through him. "Jun-Ho," she whispered, voice quivering. "Come back to me." His lips moved, but not with his voice. "He has made his choice. He belongs to me now." Hae-Rim felt her heart break. Her hands shook, yet she didn't let go. "Then take me," she shouted into the darkness. "If you need a heart, take mine, but give his back." The shadow around the clearing rippled as if laughing. "You still don't understand, daughter of the pact. This isn't about death. It's about prison. As long as love lives in you, he will be mine. And if you stop loving, the emptiness will be your eternal burden." Tears streamed down Hae-Rim's face. It was a trap, with no escape. If she kept loving him, he was enslaved. If she quit, she lost herself. Jun-Ho raised a hand and touched her face. For a brief instant, his eyes returned to their deep brown. "Don't give up on me," he murmured, before the red flame took over again. The old man, who watched from a distance, finally stepped forward. "There is one last chance," he said, grave, yet with a spark of hope. "A bond even the spirit cannot break." Hae-Rim looked up through tears. "What is it?" He met her eyes. "The true heart of a witch." The words rang like revelation. The prophecy her mother left. "Be prepared to lose what you desire most." It wasn't about Jun-Ho's death. It was about the love that might save him, or destroy her. The storm had ended, but a cutting cold rode the wind. Hae-Rim helped Jun-Ho to his feet. His red eyes watched her, sometimes threatening, sometimes silently begging for freedom. She gripped his hand. "If love is what binds you, then love will set you free." The shadow roared. The earth trembled. Trees bent as if made of paper. "If you dare defy me, you will both fall with me." Hae-Rim did not retreat. She pressed his hand to her chest. "Then take everything, spirit. My life, my pain, my heart. But you will never have my love. It is his alone." The red circle flared brighter than before. The shadow writhed as if wounded by her words. Jun-Ho screamed. His voice fused with the spirit's. The red pupils pulsed, then faltered. He collapsed to his knees, breath ragged. Hae-Rim hugged him from behind, tears streaming. "I won't let you go, not even to midnight." The shadow roared one last time, releasing a wave of energy that hurled them to the ground. The world shattered in light and dark. When she opened her eyes, Hae-Rim lay on the clearing's cold earth. Silence. Absolute. Beside her, Jun-Ho breathed deeply, eyes closed, as if in a deep sleep. She touched him, afraid to feel nothing, but his chest rose, and warmth slowly returned. Jun-Ho opened his eyes. Brown, human, his again. "Hae-Rim," he rasped. "You won," she cried in relief, pulling him into her arms. "No, we won." The old man watched from afar, a rare smile breaking his severe face. The true heart of the witch wasn't a curse. It was the key. Love that does not yield to fear is the only force able to face midnight. Hae-Rim stood slowly, still holding Jun-Ho's hand. The circle on the ground was gone, as if it had never existed. The forest seemed to breathe in peace, but inside her, a certainty grew. The pact wasn't destroyed, only asleep. In the days that followed, the village murmured of thunder and shadows in the forest, but no one dared ask the truth. To everyone, Hae-Rim was still the witch. Suspicious looks and whispers continued. But now, for the first time, she wasn't alone. Jun-Ho walked beside her, ignoring the stares. "They'll never believe," she whispered. "We don't need them to," he said, squeezing her hand. "We only need to believe in each other." Hae-Rim closed her eyes and let the strength of that sentence guide her. Deep down, she knew. Midnight might come to collect again. Even so, she was ready to face whatever came. Because the love they shared was already, in itself, a victory against fate. That night, as she lay down to sleep, Hae-Rim heard a soft voice at the foot of the bed. "You won this time, but midnight always returns. Are you ready to pay again? Her eyes flew open in shock, but no one was there, only the moon's shadow crossing the window. Winter advanced, covering the village with deceptive calm. Hae-Rim and Jun-Ho returned to a quiet routine, he helping at school, she studying alone. At first glance, they looked like an ordinary couple, but at night, when shadows stretched along the walls, both knew the pact still lurked. The neighbors' whispers no longer startled Hae-Rim. The slurs scratched on her locker didn't hurt as before, because now, when she turned her head, she always found Jun-Ho's eyes on hers, steady, saying, "I'm here." But the calm was only on the surface. At the bottom of her dreams, she still heard Midnight's whisper, "You won once, but the clock always resets." On a freezing afternoon, Jun-Ho took her to a field where the first winter flowers were sprouting. The air cut like a blade, but a peaceful silence held. He stopped before her and opened a small case. Inside, a simple silver ring. "I can't promise a life without fear," he said, eyes wet, "but I can promise to face every midnight with you." Tears welled in Hae-Rim's eyes. She touched the ring, hesitant, as if afraid to wake the pact. "And what if that's exactly what it wants?" she whispered. "If the more we love, the stronger it grows?" Jun-Ho took her hand and slid the ring on her finger. "Then we'll love it until it suffocates." The wind blew hard. For an instant the sky seemed to darken, as if the night itself had heard the promise. That night, Hae-Rim couldn't sleep. She sat by the window looking at the high moon. The ring glinted softly on her hand. The village clock struck 12, midnight. The air grew heavy. A candle's flame in the corner went out on its own. In the silence, she heard the whisper again. "Are you ready to pay again?" This time she did not tremble. "If it's the price of love, yes." The room dropped into total darkness. When she opened her eyes, she was in the forest clearing again. The red circle glowed under her feet. Before her, the shadow of midnight rose higher than ever. "Do you dare defy the pact once more?" Jun-Ho appeared at her side, breathless, as if pulled by the same spell. He gripped her hand. "Always." The shadow roared. Wind howled. Trees bent in reverence, or fear. The ground shook. "This time we won't beg or run," Hae-Rim said, firm. "This time we choose." She raised the ring to the shadow. The silver burned like a flame against the dark. "This is our pact, not yours." The shadow wrapped them, trying to crush every spark of light. But the more the darkness pressed, the tighter Hae-Rim and Jun-Ho clung to each other. At the storm's peak, she cried out, "The true heart of the witch doesn't belong to midnight. It belongs to love." A flash tore through the forest. The circle dissolved into sparks, and the shadow roared, a sound that echoed for miles before vanishing into the night. When they opened their eyes, they were back in her room. The ring still gleamed on her finger. Jun-Ho hugged her tightly, his whole body shaking. "Is it over?" he asked, voice breaking. Hae-Rim didn't answer. She looked out at the full moon, silent. Deep down she knew. Midnight always returns. But she also knew that as long as they were together, no shadow could defeat them. Months later they left the village. No one stopped them. No one said goodbye. To the villagers, she was still the witch. To them, it was the beginning of a new life. In a small, distant city, they rented a modest room full of light. Hae-Rim returned to her studies. Jun-Ho took various jobs to support them. There were many hardships, but something greater held up each step, the certainty that they had survived the impossible. One spring morning she woke before him. She looked at Jun-Ho's sleeping face, so serene, and whispered, "Maybe we'll never be free, but if fate wants to test us, let it come. Love is already our victory." He opened his eyes slowly, smiling drowsily. "Talking to yourself again?" She laughed, tears in her eyes. "Talking to life." Jun-Ho pulled her closer. Together they stayed in silence, listening to the sounds of a world that, for a moment, seemed peaceful. But somewhere far away, in the heart of the forest, the red circle glowed for a second, then went dark, and the whisper returned, soft as wind through the trees. Midnight always returns. And now I want to hear from you. Which part of this story touched your heart the most? Leave your comment below. I'd love to read your thoughts. If you enjoy intense stories like this, subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next narrated dramas. Thank you so much for watching to the end. Your support is what keeps alive this journey of telling stories that move us and make us think.